Different bands record their albums differently. For the Cars, all of the songs come from writer-guitarist Ric Ocasek. But the recording of each album is very much a collaborative effort, an effort that's been overseen on all 4 Cars albums by British producer Roy Thomas Baker. Ric Ocasek.
Roy's such a good friend of ours, and I think it's so much fun having him around when we record a record. It's not that he physically, you know, I mean, he's in control of the sound of the record. You know, he makes sure that all levels are correct and the record's going to sound good when it's finished. If everybody's tied up and doesn't know maybe what we should do next, Roy might say, well, let's go work on this. You know, it's just a buffer. It's a good buffer. He's got a good sense of humor. He takes it light. You know, there's no, you know, an extremely serious attitude. You know, he's also got, you know, the procedure of recording an album in his own way down. In the beginning, of course, we had to learn the steps of making a record, you know. Even though we had a pretty good handle on it from doing demos, but still there's different ways you can make a record, and it's just different procedures. You know, you do these tracks here, and you do this, and it's he sort of keeps it organized. We don't really want to be that organized when we're in the studio. We just want to be free-flowing, and so he puts that tad of organization on it.
The Cars are known for their fine work in the studio, an ability to use all types of sounds and instruments to achieve their sound. Keyboard player Greg Hawkes explains how it's done.
The very first step would be Rick writes the songs in his basement. Maybe he makes an 8-track demo in his house, and then we'll play us, the band, cassettes of the song thus far. And half the time it'll be a rhythm guitar and a drum machine with a reference vocal. The rehearsal stage is usually the most kind of, that's like the most frustrating working stage, I think, because you're just working up little ideas, throwing out ideas. A lot of things don't work. You know, things haven't quite gelled yet together. But then once we actually start recording the tune, it's always like easy. That's like the easiest, the best part for me personally. It's the part I have the most fun with, because you can get a lot accomplished just in the studio that might take 2 weeks of rehearsal time. You might be working up something, and in a half hour in the studio, you might instantly hear, oh, well, that doesn't work. So it's a lot easier to work in the studio. We, you know, usually know exactly what the arrangement's going to be, how many verses, how many choruses, you know, how long the break is, you know. Usually that stuff's down by the time we get into the studio. Then it's just a matter of trying out little parts and harmony parts and stuff, and just seeing what works and what doesn't work, and just watching it build up layer by layer.
With 5 proficient musicians, each building those layers, the Cars have learned to work together to highlight each player. Lead guitarist Elliot Easton says that just developed naturally.
That's just sort of how the arrangements take shape. Someone will have an idea for one part of a song, and someone will have an idea for another part, and they'll work together in such a way that one instrument will be more predominant in, say, a certain section of the song, say a verse, and maybe on the chorus there'll be this special keyboard line that'll come in, and that'll really catch your ear. But it's deliberate only up to the point of the fact that you want to do things like that on a record. You want to maintain interest, and you want to keep a certain flow happening. That's just one of the foundations of any good music, I'd say, or any good art, really.
By 1981, the Cars had recorded 3 platinum albums. All of the members of the band had begun working with and producing other groups. They took their work another step, the building of their own record studio, Syncro Sound, in Boston, Massachusetts.
It's like the factory of Boston in a way, the music factory, it seems to me. I come in here lately and find all kinds of people milling about with different musical projects.
With the building of Syncro Sound in 1981, the Cars had a new home to record their latest album, Shake It Up, and future albums. Syncro Sound also gave them a studio to work on their individual projects and with other groups. Ric Ocasek produced this San Francisco band, Romeo Void, at Syncro Sound. Never Say Never by Romeo Void. In a time when most studios are run by businessmen and engineers, what's unique about Syncro Sound is that it was designed and built by musicians, the Cars. It's a studio that offers unique musical opportunities. Ric Ocasek.
Sometimes I think that's one of the things that happens when local bands or unassigned bands come in for production, you know, to give them the freedom you know, and not try to assemble their sound the way they wouldn't want it. You know, I would want to sound like my own band. That's the most important thing, no matter how rough or how polished. It should still sound like that band. And the only help that I give as a producer or whatever, which I sometimes call myself a reducer, you know, it's more of a reducer job than a producer job. It's finding the essence of it, something that sometimes gets overlooked when you're so close to it. I mean, nobody's thinking, well, what's the record going to do? You know, where's my name going to be on it? Nobody cares, you know. Basically, everybody just does it to do it because it's fun to do. My main fun in doing it is hearing it when it's finished, and maybe selfishly, having the tape of someone who I really love that isn't out on the streets yet. It's like getting a record before it's released. It's like getting something that I liked and prefer to listen to. And it's almost like, so I can have like a unique record collection or something. That's one of the incentives, you know, and the other incentives is just that, you know, you see these people that are very creative and doing something that seems to be different than a lot of other people and have the right idea and just have not had the time to go around and bang on record company doors or find good management or any of those things, you know, and sort of need a little help in one area or another. And it's just much more fun.
The Cars' fourth album, Shake It Up, was recorded entirely at Syncro Sound. This is Cruiser from Shake It Up. One of the benefits of Syncro Sound was the opportunity for the Cars to make an album in Boston, close to home. Lead guitarist Elliot Easton.
First of all, the expense of making an album is greatly cut down by not having to fly to another city and freighting tons of equipment there and staying in hotels and logging up bills for eating and for all that sort of thing. That's one thing. I mean, also we're not governed by a time clock when we're in the studio. We don't have to book time. There isn't another band coming in at 6 o'clock, and if we're on a good streak, we can keep working. We don't have to stop because there's another session due in. And it's also great to be nice and relaxed and at home and comfortable. I'd rather sleep in my own bed and get up in the morning and go to the studio than have to live in a hotel and be away from all the things I'm used to having around me. Plus, it makes possible using all the instruments that you have at your disposal. I mean, I can't take everything I have to New York or LA. I mean, I'm just not about to ship all those guitars. There's just no need. But if I hear a part on Monday, I can go home, and on Tuesday I can have that guitar with me. And so I enjoyed that luxury on this album. Just lots of reasons. It's a base for all operations. We have our offices there. The whole thing is just more enclosed there with your own studio, yeah. Because it's such a monumental thing sometimes, booking a good studio, because they're booked months and months in advance. So having a place of our own eliminates those problems and allows more of an immediacy to a given project.
Having their own studio allows the Cars a unique spontaneity. Ric Ocasek talks about the recording of Since You're Gone.
When I first wrote the song, of course, you know what I think it does it in that song is nothing more than, you know, you're so treacherous. Where's that tenderness? You know, I think it just sounds like something Dylan would say, but I don't know. When I first wrote the song, I never thought about Dylan particularly, but then when I was phrasing it, singing it, you know, it just sounded like, it was like a joke. People would laugh, like, you know, in the band, in the studio when I do it, you know, so I just thought it was a joke, so I just left it, you know, and that was like a one-take, it was like a ref vocal, if you want to call it that. There's a certain thing to, like, doing a vocal live right off that you almost, I find myself, like, going back and trying to imitate my reference vocal. The feeling is just much better than it.
A number of Boston bands and other musicians have been working with various members of the Cars. Ric Ocasek recently produced records for B.B. Buell, Suicide, Romeo Void, The New Models, and this song for Boston's Peter Dayton Band. For any band to stay together for a number of years requires not only playing well together, but getting along well together. According to Cars bass player Ben Orr, cooperation is a key.
I mean, if you're playing in a band with someone, you have to respect them for what they do, and you can't fight them at every corner. We get along pretty well, I would imagine, because we each respect each other's own background and their abilities. And, you know, if there's a problem, you have to file it under the right perspective, you know. You can't let it blow out of shape. If you have a problem, let's take care of it, but let's do it, you know, so the band stays together, because why not? Why shouldn't the band stay together? And it's working well for us, so why cut your own throat? I mean, an ego is an ego, you know, and you can fortify your ego within a group if you really want to.
Along with commercial success for the Cars has also come notoriety, especially for the tall, instantly identifiable Ric Ocasek.
Yeah, it was a little hard in the beginning, but I'm pretty used to it. I think because maybe I ignore it, you know, because actually I feel like the same person, and I don't believe my press. I don't want to put myself on some pedestal that the higher I put myself, the longer I fall, because I see it happen to people all the time. People believe that they're stars, and I say, well, what's so different about you? You know, why are you so great? You know, then they fall down, and where's the substance? What kept you going? What did you really do it for? You did it to either be a star, you know, to either be a big, you know, trip, or you did it because you believed in what you did that was really good, and you thought you were like really doing something that was worth it, and you felt good about it, you know, and then it almost doesn't matter what anybody says, because that's not the criteria. You know, the criteria is, is this good? You know, what I do, and am I happy with the way this came out?
Many people associate rock and roll musicians with heavy drug use, but according to Ric Ocasek, the Cars are simply not interested in burning out.
Oddly enough, it's almost embarrassing to say, but we're a relatively straight band. You know, all the stuff that's available to us, especially at this time in our careers, would be anything, right? And basically our group doesn't even, I mean, it's probably gonna turn off millions of kids, but we don't even drink. You know, we do no drugs. You know, we go out and have a good time. We do a few little things here and there, but we're just not obsessed with it, and we just understand it, you know. I think in the long run, it'll tear you apart.
For most musicians, the music business is altogether too much a business, but according to guitarist Elliot Easton, the Cars have worked that out.
I dislike dealing with it sometimes, but of course it's a necessary evil. I dislike more the idea that musicians in the past got ripped off and didn't get paid for their work and got, you know, wheeled and dealed by big fat cigar smoking managers and record people than the case now, where musicians are more aware and more in control of their business. I don't think it's fair to think that that a musician should do it for his health. I mean, you know, you have however many years in the business, and you have to make the most of it. And I see nothing wrong with that. I think within that, I think you can deal with the business humanely, but I think it's something you have to face and deal with if you want to be in the business of making records. Then you have to deal with a record company, and if you want to be in the business of playing concerts, you have to deal with that. You know, unless you want to just go sit in a cave and play guitar, you have to deal with people in the business.
In order to create a free atmosphere, you just have to hear all ideas and filter them the way you would like, and try to get people happy with what they're doing, because they'll do better when they're happy. Basically, everybody just does it to do it because it's fun to do.
Thanks for joining us on Moving in Stereo, a history of the Cars for the Source.